in your notebook the budget packet, and we'll start with the general fund budget, just to give you, going the wrong way. Why is that? Let's see. Why is okay? Okay, here we are. As discussed in last year's budget forums, the impact of the reassessment on the county local property tax revenues and the redistribution of the fee in lieu income providing the county operating funds of 75% of the revenue has provided the county with increased revenue for the current and, of course, the upcoming fiscal year. Revenues in this budget have increased, but not at the rate of the expenditures. Based on requests finance received from elected officials and department heads, budget expenditures have been compiled and are included in the detailed document. As stated in my budget memo, not all departments submitted budget requests. In those cases, finance prepared that information, and when we get into the actual document itself, you'll see we've color-coded that in yellow so you can tell which ones were requests from departments and which ones we had provided information on. No provision outside of a 2% cost of living increase is incorporated in the budget request for increased salaries, so it's 2% across the board in this budget request. Request for additional personnel by department is not in the budgeted amounts. Outside of the $200,000 for sheriff's vehicles, which I think we've resolved with the use of the general obligation bond funds to address those needs, no significant capital requests are included in the budget. Based on millage and other funding for debt service, the county's able to issue about $1 million in GO bond debt, could be even 27, or more than that in 28 without a debt service millage increase. Look at revenues and other sources. What's changed? Increased tax revenues, about $140,000. Intergovernmental revenues, about $55,000. Fee in lieu revenues, $205,000. State library funds, $50,000. We had some other small revenue reductions. Overall increase in revenues, $427,106. Right now, with this budget, we're indicating we're going to use $262,000 in fund balance. However, if we offset that by the $200,000, we're only talking about $62,000 in use of fund balance. Looking at revenues, just overall, roughly half of our revenues come from general taxes. We have, which is $8,621,000. And we have fee in lieu income of $2.6 million, so that's roughly 15% of the overall budget.
Question.
Yes.
The fee in lieu 2.6, is that 200,000 on that previous page? Was it added to it?
That's been added to that because we were at $2 million. We were at $2.4 million in the prior budget. We have intergovernmental state of $2,958,500. Fees for services $1,213,000. Licenses, permits, and fees $332,000. Miscellaneous revenue $172,000. We have library funding. 200 of that is from the state. 15,000 of that is from internal. 600,000 in transfers, and we stated fund balance use, bringing the total budget to $17,182,070. Looking at property tax revenues, I've got a chart that we're going to review, the county's had very limited operating millage increases. Operating millage increased from 95.2 in fiscal year 1920 to 98 mills in 26-27, or at least that's what we're proposing, to retain the millage at 98 mills. So it's a total of 2.8 mills over 7 years. This budget does not, consider any form of millage increase, although property tax revenues in fiscal year 25-26 increased as a result of reassessment. Looking at the increase in the Consumer Price Index as provided by the Office of Revenue and Fiscal Affairs, inflation over the past 4 years was 17.7%. Our budgets and millage increases have not, kept up with the rate of inflation. I'll kind of illustrate that on the next chart. The county is effectively in this budget is 10.6 mils behind in recovering the impact of inflation.
That statement right there,
Yeah.
Mr. Park,
Right.
where does that leave us in the future? We know what we just went through. We had to recover.
We did recover.
Yeah.
But still, even after the recovery, we're still 10.6 mils behind.
So what does that look like, though?
Yeah. Well, just say the value.
Future implications.
Value of a mill, just say 75,000 roughly. We're looking at about $800,000 in reduced revenue. In terms of being able, if we were keeping up with inflation, our tax millage would be 10.6 mils higher, which would be about 800,000.
How can we better forecast so we don't run into what we ran into last year, where we trying to recover all that because we didn't do it in 5 or 6
Right,
years?
we didn't.
I think what happened is it was requested, but council chose not to increase the millage to 2 mills or 3 mills every time, and then whenever if you don't do that, then it accumulates, and that's what. Since I've been on, whenever it said, well, we don't want to raise taxes, we want to raise the taxes, then next thing you know, it's accumulated over five years at 2 mills or 3 mills apiece, then you get to the 10.6 real easy.
It is. It's really, particularly when you have a high rate of inflation. One of the years, the inflation rate was 8%, which is pretty incredible. We haven't seen, that rate of inflation since.
But on that same token, is a lot of our revenue is based on residents.
It is.
And so with inflation, who does it hit the most is the resident. So, so if we had businesses that was producing a lot of our revenue, is to make it a whole lot different than trying to take it off the backs of roofs is what I always kind of say. So
When we take a look at this chart, just to give you an idea, and I will apologize for if you look at taxing entity and the fiscal years, that 25-26 should be slid over one, and the last column should be labeled as 26-27. But anyway, if you see, we've recovered 4 mills from 23-24 as a part of the reassessment. So we can only go back basically 3 years. So with the 4.12% plus of the rate, we're basically, the mills allowable for general fund in 24-25 was 5.43 that we could have increased. 25-26, that became 8.32, and then in 26-27, that became 10.6. So if we look at, millage going across, you can see county ordinary in 1920 was 95.2. In the upcoming budget year, we're still looking at 98 mil, so that's 1.8 mil increase.
why is it showing 2020, 2021, 93.3, then 21?
We actually did a rollback as a part of the reassessment process. So we did do rollback in, well,
Why didn't they show it last?
no, that would have been in, I think that was actually, yeah, I think that was in,
That would have been a millage rollback from 93.3 to 90.
yeah,
So
to 90.
So doing that rollback, then it didn't show from 98 to 98 last year.
Well, what happened was we recovered the cost of, basically a part of that inflation as a result of increase in valuation. And we did reassessment earlier, as reassessment ended up getting delayed in 21-22, and so you can see effectively we got 1, 2, 3. Whoop. Let me go back. Let's see. We ended up doing reassessment.
So what it
Yeah,
did in
basically
20,
4
correct?
years.
And went into effect in 21?
We did it in 21-22, so it would have been in 21, and so it impacted the rates in 21-22. So you can see roll back 3.3 mils.
Mr. Park, on that chart, and I asked the question last year, and I know, and I want to be clear that we don't have anything to do with that. When it gets down to that taxing entity, again, why is Clio almost matching Bennettsville, the city of Bennettsville tax?
Well, their millage rate effectively is, if you put Bennettsville, their operating and debt service millage together, it does equal Clio's. And I think one thing if,
Compared to the other small townships.
right.
Wow.
And one thing that can happen with, smaller municipalities too, if they've got losses, they can recover those losses through millage increases. And,
I just see that's killing.
yeah, and you can see, Tatum has got a very nominal millage rate at 18. That's very small. Look at McCall together, that ends up being like 108. And then Blenheim is only at 53.
So of the townships, of the municipalities, the bigger ones, we have Bennettsville at 120, we have
Five.
Clio at 105, and we have McCall at 108. So they're all kind of, the
They're
ones
close.
that have police departments,
Sure.
the ones that have trash pickup, the ones that have those different services
Yeah.
are the ones that have like a little over 100 for the mill rate.
So it's still, I guess I want to get back to previous to find out where we came from to know where we're at.
Right.
In 2019, 2020 calendar ordinary, we're 95.20. So the next year, we reduced the millage to 93.3.
Yep,
Then the following year, we reduced the millage to 90 mills.
yep, that was the rollback year,
All right, so from 95.20 to 90, I was on, but I can't remember.
right?
We rolled the millage back that year also?
Well, yeah, and I'm not
How-
quite
how
sure
can-
why it ended. Well, I think there was a little bit of a swap. You can see what happened, roll back county ordinary, increase EMS by 2 mils. So you went from 18 to 20,
Okay,
but you
okay.
did county ordinary 95.2 back to 93.3. So overall, it stayed fairly close.
They probably took it out of the general and put it in designated.
That's right, yeah, that's really what happened.
The 5 mil increase from 21-22 to 22-23.
5.5 mils.
Didn't we do that 5 mils when we brought the ambulance and another piece of equipment?
There were some significant expenditures, capital expenditures that general fund ended up
One of
having
it's part
to
of the
absorb.
EMS, I think.
That was probably, EMS started with the county, was it 2018 or 2017? 2019?
So it should have came out then. So it should have came out then to designate it, I would think. I would just like to know, I don't.
Yeah, and I didn't go back any further than 1920. I'm not sure what the
Yeah.
numbers were in 1819.
But they started out though, they were given ambulances by the hospital charities, wasn't they? And then we bought an ambulance. I thought about 2 or 3 years ago was when we added that 5 meals in to take care of an ambulance and something else.
No, because it would have been an EMS, so it would have been strictly an EMS. It went from 18 and 19 to 20 meals in 2020, and it stayed there consistent, so. I don't remember why. I mean,
Yeah.
I just can't remember why. I probably should, but I can't remember why.
Yep. Anyway, that just gives you a little bit of chart to look at. When we look at expenditures overview, as discussed in last year's budget forum with the increased revenues from reassessment and the revision to the FILO distribution, the county was able to balance the 25-26 budget without an increase in millage or use of fund balance to pay for existing services. In 26-27, revenues haven't kept up with increased cost, which will require either use of fund balance or a millage increase. For this presentation, the assumption is to use the 262.70 in fund balance. Revenues are anticipated to increase by 2.6%, while expenditures, as included in the budget, have increased by 4.2%. And we're going to get into the following slides reflect the most significant changes within each department request. We can see in county council, we've got an increase of 15,000 in retirement and fringe. There is a provision there for $9,000 increase in community services. In finance, increase in retirement and fringe of 32,000. Non-departmental, 205,000 is a 2% cost of living increase for all employees. That is an increase over the prior year that was $116,000. So it's an $89,000 increase.
Part-time or all employees?
That's all employees. 36,000 in general insurance and workman's comp. Some issues, obviously, in information technology, and I'm going to pass this around because
Mr. Chair.
I think it might be interesting for one of those sheets. Might be interesting to look at some of the. I had our IT director do an executive summary on some of the increased costs as a part of providing the IT services, and so many of those costs have to do with things that are connected with law enforcement as a requirement. You know, many of these are just unfunded mandates, unfortunately. Voters registration, there's a $20,000 increase in part-time salaries and a $13,000 increase in retirement and fringe. Family court, $10,000 increase in retirement and fringe, and $5,000 increase in postage. $2,000 increase in equipment lease. This budget, all salaries are in general fund, but no transfer to family court. So we had $200,000 transfer to family court fund. We don't have that in this budget. We just have both clerk of court and family court. All those salaries are in general fund. Magistrate, there is a $70,000 increase in salaries. I've indicated that there was a position that was not budgeted, but one of that was.
Full-time position for a magistrate. At that time, you were not given a full-time position during our fiscal year. But this year, you could get a full-time position, and also because they made the mandate where they want them to have a law degree and all this other stuff, the salary needs to be higher than what it's been in the past.
And I think that's something that they passed for the General Assembly for us to do that, is that not right? So,
$42,000 increase in retirement and fringe, and $3,000 increase in telephone cost. Look at the coroner, $11,000 increase in salaries, I guess probably is in the part-time. And $3,000 increase in retirement, $5,000 increase in office supplies, $2,500 in travel, meetings, and schools. We've got a $20,000 reduction in professional services for autopsies. I think the amount was significantly higher in last year's budget, more than what we'll actually utilize. And then,
$20,000. I hear the coroner talk about how you need special things, so you're saying that reduction is necessary?
we had budgeted $70,000 in last year's budget, and we think we're only gonna need $50,000. Prior to last year's budget, there was only $30,000 budgeted for autopsies, so we're probably right in the middle with that right now. And we moved the vehicle lease payments from the supplement back to the coroner, which is under general fund. Animal control, $7,000 increase in health insurance fringe.
Is that across the board for everybody? Is that something that we have to do? Is that this increase in health insurance and things like that?
It depends on the coverage, and that's one of the big things that gets complicated because,
We do this. Some people, if we know their current employee and they have coverage, then we put it in. It could be that the person who held the job last time did not have any health insurance coverage. But
That's
this
exactly
does
right.
have health insurance coverage, or it could be a difference in whether they might have been just the employee and this one's full family this time. But when we put in the fringe, we put it generally in on exactly who's in that position and what coverage they have.
So is that across the board with everybody?
Everybody,
So that's why we're
department.
seeing that in every department like
With
that?
some of them, and
Yeah.
some, it may end up that it's a decrease.
Okay.
But if it's a significant increase, then I think Mr. Parker.
yeah. And sometimes you'll have somebody employed in a position, and then if they leave, the replacement may end up coming in with family coverage, or it could be the reverse. The person that leaves had family coverage, and then the person that came in comes in as single. So it's very difficult to figure out exactly where that's gonna come out. Look at public buildings, we've got an increase in fuel costs of $8,000, $1,000 increase in uniforms. With the sheriff's department, we've got an increase of about $30,000 in salaries, $40,000 in overtime, $10,000 in professional services, $5,000 in telephone, $54,000 increase in operating and maintenance of vehicles, $5,000 increase in radios, and we address that capital need, I think, with the sheriff, so that will be, removed.
May I ask that question with $30,000 increase? Does the sheriff make that decision as far as to give his staff or whomever an increase in salary?
No, ma'am. What happens here, this is a comparison from last year to
Last
this
year.
year. They did do increases where, after what was it, $93,000 was not included on that budget line last year for them. It was an additional on a different line. So now it's showing in their budget, on that budget line. And also, they did away with 2 positions, and they increased the salaries. When we did, I'm gonna point out, when we did overtime last year with anybody, we did, if you got an increase, or even the 2%, that always makes your overtime line go up. We did not budget that, the fact that if they got this money, then that overtime line would go up also. So those were mistakes on our end that I have to know for overtime with lots of the departments you see.
And sometimes estimating salaries can be complicated because you may have someone leave that is, has got a higher salary, and then you've got a replacement, or you have someone there that is in the existing staff that leaves, and then the replacement is paid higher. So, you know, it's,
And especially with the sheriff department,
Yeah.
they do training, they do training for someone, and that costs a good bit for them to do the training and police academy, that kind of stuff. So when they lose people, it does kind of affect the overall bottom line. They keep losing people, had to keep retraining, that kind of stuff.
okay. Looking at detention center, $20,000 increase in salaries and overtime, $28,000 increase in retirement and fringe, $20,000 increase in food cost, and this is one department that's got a little bit of capital outlay, $40,000 in capital outlay.
With all these people who get salary increase for their employees inside, will they also be affected with the 2% over? Are they also involved? That's what I need to know.
Well,
In those departments who are giving their employees a salary increase, are they also getting the 2% also across the board?
If the department, if a person gets an increase, are they also getting the 2% across the board?
Right.
In the past, we have, if they got an increase, they also got the 2%. I don't know, this year, the only thing we put in was for 2%. If
Yeah.
if somebody's gonna get an increase, I don't know about that, so.
yeah, so none of the amounts reflected in here, I've actually combined salaries and overtime together, so I'm not sure how much of that was actually a result of increase in salaries. There again, it could be that someone, you know, that was hired at a slightly higher rate, or, you know, I don't know what.
Okay, and then
Or-
again, if
yeah.
it's overtime, last year, overtime did not have that 2% added onto it. It was just done at their, what that, and it is a complete, overtime is always a complete estimate of what it will be from the rest of the year. When we run the numbers in February or March, we do an estimate for the rest of the year through June. It means that it can be, our estimate can be higher or lower, so that throws it off. Then if you had included in the next year, if that person's getting a 2% a 2% increase, then the numbers are definitely off, because there's no 2% added on to what your projection already is. So I think, and that, he may see that, I think Ray did allow for a promotion also in the detention center or something also. But I do know for a fact that the overtime last year was off, because with the increase for anybody making $150,000, if that budget line had overtime, that 2% was not there.
So that 2%, regardless of whether there's gonna be a salary increase for an employee, that 2% still goes across the board for everyone.
Library, one of the things about library is they did see a $50,000 increase in state funding, so even though there are these increases, retirement and health insurance, state aid for information services, state aid for salaries, retirement and fringe, $3,000 in telephone and $4,000 in utilities, 50,000 of that is provided by a higher allocation. Looking at economic development, we have $5,000 increase in fuel and $5,000 for utilities. Capital outlay, we presented that within the individual departments rather than at the end of the budget, and we don't have a county council contingency in this budget. So those are some of the major changes. If we look in broad categories, salaries and benefits, $11,136,327, 65%, roughly, 2/3 of our budget there. Purchase services, that includes things like insurance, property insurance, let's just say, as well as utilities, and there are a number of other service costs that are associated with county operations. $4,087,856, or 24% of budget. Materials and supplies, $1,258,687, or 7%. and capital outlay and lease payments, 669.2. So if you took the roughly $240,000 out of that, you've got, overall, you've got maybe close to 400,000 in lease payments throughout this budget. We look at salary and benefits. Salaries make up about 65% of the cost, retirement and fringe, the other 22%, and then health insurance about 13%. So it brings you back to that same total, 11,136,327.
Mr. Parks, before you, Mr. Chair, if I may, before we get into our departmentals, because I really have a lot with those
Right.
departmentals. What you presented to us today is what you propose, or what.
That's what's included, yeah.
What's proposed as far as everything that we're gonna be looking to fund, right? From this
Yes,
budget.
ma'am.
Okay, I have to ask this question. Mr. Clyburn, what part of this, do you have any part of this budget as far as, did you get with Mr. Parks about some other things about this budget? What's your input in this budget?
So, we talked about a lot of different expenditures throughout, but we relied a lot on the department heads to send that stuff in, and then once that comes in, then we say, okay, well, maybe not so much, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but yeah, that was.
So let me tell you what the question I'm asking. For every department that's in here, what I noticed is not in this budget, and I don't know whether, because I've already flagged my book for every department and everything. Please tell me, somebody tell me exactly. We had a $3 million project going over there on Marlboro Street. Where is that, the operation cost and insurance in this budget for that?
That's going to be a part of the proprietary fund, and we do not have that included in that proprietary fund. I really don't have an estimate on what the contractual services cost of the aquatic center is going to be. But it's not going to impact general fund. We're going to maintain that within proprietary, which is really the golf course and the aquatic center combined will be a part of that operation.
There are fees for the golf course. If you use that golf complex, there are fees.
Right.
I don't see any estimated fees for the aquatic center, because don't want to give people misunderstanding, even though we haven't
Yeah.
had anything presented. What type fees are going to be involved in that? Is that something that's going to be a part of this budget like all these other fees?
I think it needs to be, but I really don't have that information. I mean, I think we've included a lot of information. There are a few things like that are
But you're
not a part of
proposing
this
that
document.
Whatever we do from the aquatic center would be combined with what we're doing
With the golf course,
complex. So
yes, with the
it'll
golf
be-
complex. So it'll be a part of that overall, that budget. So it's not going to impact our general fund.
How come, I understand that, so we've kind of got a baseline for the golf complex
Golf,
now.
right.
We don't have anything to go off of for the aquatic center.
We don't.
So, as far as just saying we're gonna put it in proprietary funds, wouldn't we wanna keep those separate to see if one's gonna fall off?
Oh,
or or-
we're absolutely going to keep, that'll be a separate fund, but it'll be considered a part of the proprietary fund.
Okay, would there be a specific line item on here for that?
There
Expenses
will
and
be,
revenues.
there will be.
And there's no
I
proposed-
don't have any of that information at this
And our rec
point.
subcommittee probably need to meet as soon as possible, just to begin to discuss what that looks like.
We're looking to get information from CPNL as far as the companies that they recommended for those contractual services.
And there has been some general discussions about the assessed fee for recreational sports, maybe increasing the fees that each participant plays to be able to begin to offset some of the costs as well. But when the rec committee meet, we'll definitely be presenting some recommendations, so we'll have a good basis on what it's gonna cost to operate, the fullness of our aquatic center.
And what kind of expenditure, what's the
Expenditures.
cost, but
Right.
those kinds of things, but.
And when those expenditures will start as well, so I think that's obviously a question, because I don't think we'll have operational expenditures until, it'll be close to next summer, I'm guessing.
No,
Yeah.
that can't be.
Well, there will be some with upkeep of the pool.
Right.
Right, right.
Throughout the winter months, we talked to the,
Yeah.
when we met.
That
There will
man
be some
told us point
costs,
blank.
you can't just leave it blank and just wait to open up.
There's-
So you are gonna have some kind of cost to maintain, you don't wanna just leave it. So
Yeah.
again, their companies, I'm still waiting on them to send me the information on those companies that they work with, and so we can get some sort of estimate on that cost. And then we also work with the Parks and Rec Committee to see what are we gonna charge? And what are some of those fees gonna be? And how we gonna, not just for the pool, but fees for recreation itself, and see how that will offset those costs.
That's what I wanted to see, because what I noticed is no fees
Yeah.
been
True.
discussed, and then I didn't see it in the budget.
That's
And then, when, according to that contractor over there, this pool aquatic center should be ready in in October, and then you got 7 months when you can't let that water stay there and not do anything. Then you got the insurance costs and all of that. So we do need those fees, but
Sure.
we need that.
Yeah.
So maybe, in the subsequent budget workshop, we can have some, not only discussion, but some contingency fees that we are looking at, so we can begin to forecast.
Especially after we have the
Right, so
rec committee meeting, we'll have a lot more concrete on the fees and operating.
Yeah, we don't wanna be caught off guard with that. Thank you for bringing that to our
Right.
attention, Ms. Lawson.
Okay, expenditures by departments, and what this does, effectively, it provides you with a comparison with the proposed year 26-27 and the prior year, and what that changes in dollar amounts as well as percentages.
I have a concern about non-departmental, well, I have a concern about our council budget, but you explained something with that.
Right.
In the finance meeting. In non-departmental, so we can be clear,
Yeah.
that includes what? What covers non-departmental?
Some of the big expenditures in there are insurance, when we talk about property insurance, and then I'm gonna turn into that in the actual detailed budget. But that's a pretty big item in non-departmental. Let's see, some of the other amounts are, well, of course, we include the cost of living increase.
What page you on, Wes?
That is on page, it's identified as page 3 in this book.
The low numbers.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether or not those are in your booklets. I think it's, yeah.
Yeah.
It's beyond the PowerPoint.
I didn't mean for you to have to skip around like that, because
We're gonna go through each
cause,
one of
right,
those, but,
cause
you know,
that made me skip.
this is a good
our portion.
discussion. 205,000 in cost of living increase. State, the retiree health premiums, 100,000. We have a 401K match of 50,000. We've got a year-end bonus, that's Christmas, 60,000. Let me see some of the other big items. General insurance, 400,000. Utilities, 235,000. And then, of course, workman's comp, 160,000. So those are some of the real big-ticket items in non-departmental.
So, can I get with that, to ask you about the bonuses?
Right,
That $60,000 we approved last year,
yes,
and with those bonuses, those are Christmas bonus for For how many employees?
How many employees were?
All employees, so it's roughly 200.
200 employees. Is it across the board? What is the average bonus in that? Because Mr. Parks, I wish our attorney was here. Did he provide you with that information about Christmas bonus for council members? He should have.
I don't,
I'll leave that alone
did
then,
we,
but the
did we have
attorney needs to.
Christmas bonus or?
Yeah,
Well, we did, yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
that wasn't supposed to be for us,
right, right.
but you didn't say anything about that.
I think I did communicate that to Andrew. I'll have to check my email.
Okay, but my question is, I noticed that there's a Christmas bonus package in here,
Right.
and then there's the Christmas dinner, and then there's a family fun day, employee fun day. All of that is in this here, right?
You know, an employee, what do we call the appreciation day?
Okay. Can we look, can I ask y'all to look and see is that the norm for all counties doing that? I'm not gonna get into the day-to-day operation, but I can tell you I did check with some counties. I'm gonna let y'all check that yourselves. I don't think I need to say anything more about that, but I think you need to check at least 8 counties and see is that what we really need to be doing.
But I think it's fine if we don't do things just like every other county. There's gonna be some things that's gonna have us different from other counties. There's some standard things that I think we do need to consult with other counties on just to ensure, but, you know, things like that, I think it's up to the discretion of, you know, our government and our leaders, you know, to, you know, put on programs and things like that. Is it a necessity? May not be, but for employee morale and things like that, I think that's a good option for, even if no other county around here is not doing it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't fit what Marlboro County is trying to do. So I don't want us to get in the habit of, well, this county is not doing it, so Marlboro County should not do it. I don't want us to mirror, you know, like that. Again, I do want us to, you know, look at other counties and not reinvent the wheel on some things. But at the same time, I don't want us to get in the habit of, well, if this county is not doing it, then Marlboro County shouldn't be doing that, those type things.
Here's the next page. It changes here, difference from the proposed year, and then, of course, the prior year. You can see what the, you know, the dollar amounts and the percentages are.
See, Public Works, it got a decrease in Public Works.
Yeah, and I looked at that, and this is based on probably it's not a huge amount. This is based on, and Public Works did do a request. I did look at the, you know, the salaries that were included in Public Works, and I'm not sure. It looked like there was a small decrease in salaries. I'm not quite sure why that was.
So since you're talking about that, I'll wait till you get to that department on that, because I do have some questions about that department.
Very good. Go to the next slide. Let's see what the differences in cost are.
The high change in the sheriff department, that is with new employees and,
Probably the big ticket item there is the 200,000 in vehicles, which we've addressed earlier in the meeting. So that percentage increase is going to be a lot smaller, and the dollar amount will only be 95,000. So. Big change with the library has to do with their funding. They got an additional $50,000 in state funds. So overall, 17,182,70 versus 16,492,894, 689,175, which ends up being a 4.18% difference. There again, if you reduce that first number by 200,000, that rate of increase becomes less and the dollar amount then becomes less than, well, it ends up being 489,175. We look at just a chart with revenues versus expenses. We can talk a little bit about some of the strategies to increase revenue and fund balance. Obviously expanding tax base through economic development projects, recruiting additional industry for, well, we've got the Delta thing, but for Mohawk site, and I guess with Delta, we've also got, we've got Fairglobe there, and we've also got some other space as well that could be a part of that project. Selling the spec building, that could be, we've got tentatively a pretty significant sale. Selling the hospital site, whether,
We've got
who
an
that would
RFP
be.
done for that already?
What's that?
Is the RFP done?
No, it hasn't been, but that's something that needs to be done, and I think that would be a great way to be able to solicit some interest in that facility. As from what I understand, there is a tremendous need for skilled nursing, and people are willing to travel, a couple hours away just to be able to put a loved one in a facility obviously soliciting commercial development in the corridors. Then looking at the other economic development initiatives, whether it's, workforce, market rate, affordable housing, the use of new markets tax credits, first-time homebuyer programs, obviously recruiting industries to existing and new sites. We look at how the revenue sources come into the various funds. We do have, rural fire with separate millage. We've got solid waste with separate fees, so that doesn't have to come out of general fund. That is a proprietary fund. We've got EMS with separate millage, foundation support, and billing revenue.
Mr. Park, before you move on with any other slide, solid waste, the fees that we have set in for the property tax that comes on our tax bill is as present $185.
For homestead.
Right, 5 years ago, somebody set that rate.
Correct.
Right, with the fees that was charged from this company.
Right.
And the county made that assessment, and that's what we're gonna decide now. What do you anticipate that fee to be?
I anticipate the fee to increase by $40. So the homestead would become $225, and then the regular rate would become $275.
Okay. Is that,
That is included in our computations for solid waste.
no, I saw what, they
Okay.
told us what they're charging us, and I already added up to, it'll be, with homestead, it's gonna be like 192.
That's-
16 times,
that's-
times 12, 192.
That's what we'll end up paying, but then, of course, we also have additional cost as well. We've got the various, convenience centers, and then we've also got a staff member that's paid out of solid waste, so.
5 years ago, was that staff member paid out of solid waste too?
Right.
Right, so that was already in it, in that
It
185.
was in there, yeah.
185, just this year, what our cost for them was 167. 167 was what we were paying, out of $13 and something, 167. So it brought it like $15. And that's how we got the 185. That's how y'all determined the 185. I got it on that's how you determine the 185. This time, determining the 230.25, you're saying a big $40 increase. The companies only went up $3 and some odd cents per card for that. Their rate only went up, as he told us, $3 and $3?
No, that's,
I think we
what
should
we're
get a- what's the
talking about is.
justification?
What's the justification
No,
for going
okay,
that
the
much?
justification.
Yes, please.
If we
That's
look
I
at
wanna
what
know.
when we talked about the $3.33 a month, what we talked about, that
Times
is
600.
that is what the increase in the rate is that we're proposing, not necessarily the increase in our cost for the contract. And I didn't bring what we're currently paying versus what the contract indicates we will be paying.
So that $40 justification.
The $40 justification is,
Give us some,
and
analysis of
the,
why that.
why is it $40? It is to cover the increase in the cost of the contract and also to cover additional, containers at the various convenience sites. And I think we've seen some increases there.
The cost at the 3 convenience centers, their dumping fees have increased over the last 3 to 5 years. So we're paying more, we're actually losing money by not increasing those fees. Where, like I said earlier, it's costing the county on average, in the last 6 months, I did a $6,000 to $8,000 per month is the average cost to operate just the dumping of those dumpsters at the 3 convenience centers. So that's what that $40 increase that he was talking about, it's covering the $6,000 to $8,000 to dump those dumpsters at the 3 convenience centers.
So when we communicate to our citizens, we wanna make sure we explicitly clear,
Yes, sir.
on why that fee is there, what does it goes against, it offsets the cost of the convenience center thing. That's what our citizens wanna hear.
Right.
They're looking at their tax bill,
Right.
they wanna know,
Exactly.
the reason
Thank
why.
you.
Right, and that's gonna be set for,
Yeah.
fixed for the next 5 years.
What, right, it's gonna be.
Tax bill, it was 3 before.
Sir, tell me, Mr. Park, he's saying something about it fixed, did you not know that?
Yeah, oh yeah, I know, it's.
I just wanna understand why technology is telling me that.
The rate that we're paying is a 5-year fixed rate. We could have elected to do the 1-year option with the annual increase, but I think the concern is that fuel costs could easily outstrip with that annual adjustment. I think that could get a lot more expensive. And we really want to have certainty. The thought is, we set the rate once, we leave it in place for 5 years, and then we don't have to make annual requests for increase.
So we were subsidizing solid waste how much in the years past?
About $100,000.
So going up this amount, we won't have subsidizing any?
No.
I just wish we could get to the place like we can be with some of these other counties with their solid waste. Our fees are against theirs, not, and I'm comparing, but I'm looking at this. Let's say, if you live in Darlington County, your solid waste bill is $70. If you live in Dillon County, your solid waste bill is $105. I'm just saying, Marlboro County, we have some high fees.
Do they run their own,
And I'm just saying, I wish there was something that we could have in place where we could have those kinds of fees, whether they run their own or what. I know Chesterfield County, people have to take their stuff there, it's $40. But I just wish that we had something in place. That's a wish list for the future. I just wish that we didn't have all these high fees on the taxpayers' back, especially those of us who live outside of, in these unincorporated areas.
One of the things we looked at last year was the comparison of millage rates. And I think what we saw was we're probably about 30 mills below the average of those counties. So I'm sure tax millage is helping to subsidize the cost of the solid waste service.
that's a good talking point as we communicate with our citizens.
Yes.
About some of our decision-making when it comes to those things. We've been doing our due diligence with not increasing those millage rates, which in turn almost hurts us a little bit because we're not in, but, how we offset that is some other conventional ways of being doing it. So being able to, explain to our citizens in a concrete manner why that $40 is added, but also letting them know that, you know, we're not raising taxes,
Yeah.
you know, as consistently as some of those other counties that might have a lower, you know,
Well, we're solid
looks
waste
like
free.
it, but
Yeah.
they're paying that in their taxes, which
Yeah.
our citizens may not necessarily be in some specific areas. But, you know, the more concrete information we can have to deliver to our citizens, I think
Okay.
it might not be taken, you
Right.
know, but it'll be taken as better, just saying, well, we just charge $40 and we really don't know the reason why.
Well, I think maybe we can put together some type of presentation for that, which would provide a little better clarity as far as why we have to charge the rate we do.
I just don't want us to have where we are charging way above what we need to charge and sort of
Well, and when we
compensating
look
for
at the-
those people who may not be paying their, because there was a time people were afraid that if they didn't pay their tax bill and that solid waste bill was on their taxes, their property could get taken. I don't want us as who pay our bill to supplement what we're having to pay somebody else's trash bill. That's what's bothering me. I just want to be sure that I'm not paying for anybody else's trash bill but my own.
And the only way we can really provide that service is through tax, a tax billing. Looking at trying to consider any other option is just not feasible. Of course, then we've got golf and recreation, which we need to include the aquatic center in this for this presentation. Obviously, fees will be involved. Looking at all the other funds, railroad, family court, victims advocate, forfeited land commission, debt service, local option sales tax rollback, family court incentive fund, economic development, general obligation bond proceeds, South Carolina Department of Public Safety with the SROs. We have the federal inmate reimbursement account or fund. And let's see. Recreation projects have been funded, through ARPA. Of course, we acquired the capital portion was acquired. The golf course, the Broad Street acquisition took place. We've made a number of recreational improvements, including, well, we'll get down a little below that. We have image projects that we provided some funding to both Clio and McCall. We did the plaza building rehab, and then recreation projects funded by the local legislative delegation, a portion of the aquatic center, and then, of course, we've got the Lindsay Park project.
Mr. Parks, will you allow me to jump in for a few minutes, because I'll be
Absolutely.
leaving, but I don't want to take away from the presentation. This has to be specific about a few items here. Can I go ahead and skip on? I know you're going to go into these
Sure.
departmental things, and I won't get through all of them, but and I'm not going to get to the opioid page yet, but there's a request from, and that maybe have to come with Mr. Clyburn, that the monies that we get is over $300,000, is that right?
That has been correct in the previous year, yeah.
I got something from, well, we all did it, from the South Carolina Association of Counties when they talked to us about trying to utilize that money with some other nonprofit groups who are specifically doing mental health. And I do know I would like for this council to look at, and we talk with you and tell us how we can do that. I know all of our funds go to Trinity Behavior Care.
They do, and one of the things is if you start introducing other programs, they would still be qualifying, but you're working from the same pot.
Right.
So part of what happens, you've really got to think, well, is Trinity is that the most effective program and use of those dollars, or should we try to reduce
No.
that funding?
Let me tell you why I'm bringing
Trinity?
this up. Because I know I'm not knocking Trinity. I'm just saying this. when we have a program such as Man to Man, who offer those type services, or the PD Coalition, these people, especially the PD Coalition group, they come to us all the time with the services that, mental health services that they're providing to these women. And I just feel bad that if there's an opportunity, I think there's where they encourage the council to look at some other nonprofits for certain services that we need to consider being, this is Mental Health Month, so making sure that, I do know that one proposal did come in from the Man-to-Man program, asking could they have some help for the men's there, because I do know that there's a lot of men who need mental health.
I think this program is specific for opioid recovery. So
But- and they-
mental health and opioid recovery is two different tracks.
Right, but they have opioid recovery in their
They don't have
proposal.
certified counsel to be able to provide that services, which Trinity does. That's why they.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm not necessarily a champion of Trinity, but they're the agency that has the qualified professionals for that grant. And so that's a drawdown grant. So I like what Man-to-Man do. If they had the proper recovery professionals as a part of their organization, then that would be, something that they could petition and get money if they're specifically targeting opioid efforts and those type of things. But I'm not sure if they have the professional qualification to be able to
One
draw
of,
those funds.
one of the things we see with Trinity that I really do like is I think they're very strong with their grant administration, and, obviously want to make sure that the county doesn't end up having any additional liability as a result of engaging, another activity that might not have that experience. So there is an advantage with working with, a firm that's got a lot of that experience, so.
I just know a proposal was presented to the administrator, but I just want to have that as consideration. Can I go ahead and jump into, I asked you beginning about Public Works budget?
Yeah, we can do that, sure. I think we're actually about done. I'm gonna escape out of this, and then we'll go directly to,
Yeah, Public Works budget.
let me,
I was gonna get in information technology, but I'll get in that later. But I'm gonna go back directly to Public Works budget. With the Public Works budget, and you brought it up on the,
right, I'm gonna pull that up
I'll wait till you get
now.
to the page. It's gonna be page,
This is our expenditures.
I got some more highlights here. Public Works is on page 15.
Okay,
In that budget, as far as the salaries and things such as that, I have a concern, and maybe this may not be a concern to anyone else's, but I am proposing that I don't know what is going to happen with directors or in staff members in that budget, but if by chance there will be changes, if it is going to be, they tell us public networks need some other staff, some more staff.
Right.
Even if part-time staff could be in that budget, do we pay benefits to part-time staff?
well, we pay retirement and we pay FICA, but we do not pay health insurance, so that's one of the big differences.
So a part-time person, let's say in Public Works, what would that look like as far as cost?
Now, typically, if you're doing a $15 minimum start, and if you're working, are you talking 20 hours a week, or what are you? So
20,
that's
24 hours a
roughly,
week.
$16,000 a year, and then, of course, when you consider the benefit costs, you could probably add 30% to that. So, you're looking at, maybe around 22,000 or so.
Yeah,
I'm
that's what
guessing.
I have on there. My question for saying that is, if there ever become changes in that budget, I think we need to look at that, have some more part-time people in that budget. I don't know what the council's gonna decide when they get to that, but I just know that Mr. D.T. Turner and Mr. Covington name comes up a lot for everything I hear. Everything that's presented,
Well, D.T. Turner is in public buildings,
Oh.
and where Ron Covington is in public works.
I don't know what this council's gonna decide on this budget, they're gonna probably just accept it, but I'm just considering how we can make sure that the staff that's needed and are what we call boots on the ground people, that they are going to be compensated enough where they'll want to say, hey, I'll work hard. Public works is important for our county. It's important because I'm thinking about how the county, for the residential areas just growed up, that the grass cutting, I just don't like to see our county just growed up in our neighborhoods like this.
One of the things we've found with, I think, contracting some of the grass cutting services.
But they're not in the neighborhood, sir.
Yeah.
The grass cutting is not in, the contract service does not include neighborhood cutting. I know we've done that. I'm looking at what we taxpayers pay for. We pay for keep our neighborhoods clean. I'm not getting on you or anybody about that, but the bottom line is that's what I want to see in my neighborhood, for my district. I want to see my grass cut at least more than one time a year. They cut our grass in the district for one time a year. And I can't explain that to my citizens.
What we can do is, once we get to that point, you know, and looking at budget consideration, we can make recommendations, you know, that possibly more part-time staff, or we know that there's a deficiency, more part-time staff be allocated to public works. If there's some salary reallocation based on this particular budget, we can definitely, you know, make those recommendations. Because we've heard it more than once that they need some more people in public works, and whatever we can do to help facilitate that without extending the budget, that's something that we can definitely.
One thing we've got to be very careful of with part-time is not allowing part-time to become full-time and then not providing for the, you know, the benefits, because I'm sure as a part of the audit, I know that's got to be a real headache for you to kind of keep that under control, because it's really easy to have someone engaged as a part-time person, and then a lot of activity takes place, and then you're finding they're working 30, 40 hours a week or more, and then after a certain period of time, they kind of cross that line, and it puts the county in a potential liability, you know, scenario. So, yeah.
And I understand that, and
Yeah.
I thank you. Are you involved in that process, Ms.?
Very much.
Okay, well, since it falls up under your department, my question is, what goes with all these other little budgets, such as in our budget where you get overtime and things like that, I don't see how too many of our administrative, these administrative office, can y'all justify to me how more of these administrative office accumulate part-time? How is that?
Overtime,
Yeah, why is that?
if they're working a certain function, or if they're attending meetings, all of that would justify overtime.
Could we consider comp time instead of this overtime? Because we pay $40, we pay for 40 hours a week, when actually these people do not work with 37.5 hours per week, because they're getting paid for their lunchtime. I'd rather see some comp time instead of us paying them for 40 hours. They only actually working when they do work 37.5. And we're gonna give them free lunch, and then we're gonna give them overtime. I just think we need to be looking at some part-time. And that's not taking anybody's money out of their pocket. It's just that I think we need to be more realistic. Can we look at having comp time where you say, well, you can have half a day off for the work you've done, and still make sure that they are working, but not to say, well, you're gonna get overtime for this. I don't see that. I truly don't see that. That's 2.5 hours more per day than what they're actually working. Because you don't get for lunchtime free in the other place.
Versus what you're saying, I have to make sure what our policy manual is saying, that's number one.
Okay.
Number two,
Right.
help.
Yeah.
And if they're not, you know, it's
Within-
not feasible for them to take comp time, then you still have to come back and pay them for that time that's worked.
Maybe not comp time, maybe flex time, you know, just put some creative
Right,
ways,
some-
you know, for
thank you.
employees to be able to engage.
But thank you for considering that, and thank you for pointing that out. I didn't think about the flex time, but a way that we will not be getting stuck in overtime. I know with the EMS and the sheriff department, we know that they're on call, but anybody that we can do that for, I think it's gonna be better for this budget. I don't wanna say that to me there's a lot of fluff, but sometimes I do feel like there's a lot of fluff in this budget. I really do, but that's just me thinking that, maybe it's just me.
But in any business that, company, everybody have fluff. That's part of running a business. And the county government is a business. You always have flush, you know, cushion. So you can have, just in case something run over, you have the cushion to fall back on. That's the purpose of having, the run a business. You gotta have some cushion. You know, who run a business, Jason, Mr. Blackman, the county government, Dr. Johnson, whoever run a business, they always implement flush. I know I talked to the lady at Dollar General, they allocate X amount of dollars for shoplifting, you know, cause that's their flush, you know, everybody ought to have that. So, but, I understand everybody's point of, looking at it, but you know, when you're talking about just cut everything straight to the bone, it would never work. I don't think it'll work, but like I say, you gotta have some cushion. Everybody can have some cushion.
But if we know that public works is one of those areas where we definitely need some, attention, we'll definitely make suggestions and we can't make staff do, but we can make those recommendations depending upon budget considerations.
All right.
And also, what that we can't always contradict ourselves is, giving people staff, but yet don't raise, cutting the budget. We can't cut the budget and give people, lawnmowers and more staff, at the same time cut the budget. You know, we gotta work with what we already got. But like I say, you know, this is phase one, this is the very first step, you know, so we got a lot of time to tend the meat off the bone.
Now, we're at the very first page of this presentation, so you can kind of see.
Can
Probably
you let Ms.
everybody.
Lawson give her a follow-up, cause she's gonna have to leave in a minute, so I want her to.
Okay.
please.
Water bill.
Well, I'm not gonna get through all mine anyway, but I'll just get through some points.
Okay.
I'll stay on the pages so you won't have to be flipping
right.
so much, okay? With, I noticed that with our council budget, I'm concerned about the auditor. I just wanna ask this, sir.
Sure.
And ask the council. I know, the firm that we've had now, how many years have we had this firm?
We've had them since, I think, 2018. Typically, you know, you would stay with that. A lot of times what you'll do is you'll have a 5-year contract and then you'll do a 5-year renewal.
So do we have a contract with this firm?
We do on an annual basis.
So you said a 5-year contract though, but do we have a 5-year?
Probably initially it was 5 years and then it's just been annual from, each year, so.
So we're not in a 5-year contract? with this
We're
firm?
not in a 5-year contract. One of the things that you need to consider is if you bring a new firm in, obviously, there's a lot of orientation that firm has to do. It becomes, they've got to basically create, a set of work papers and background. It's actually gotten to the point where there are very few firms within the state that actually do governmental audit. So one thing you don't want to do is leave a firm before you've got another one lined up, because that's a problem. In fact, one of the things that might be interesting, I don't know whether you've been on the State Treasurer's website. If you go to the State Treasurer's website, then go to the delinquent audit reports. You know what county is on that delinquent audit report? You'd be surprised. Florence. And that was as of
That
April.
was the city though.
No, Florence County. That was as of April 15th. The audit report was due December 31. As of April 15th of 26, they still don't have their June 30th of 25 audit report. So think about that. And there's about 70 municipalities that are included in that delinquent set of audits. And there's actually 5 other counties besides Florence, but it's surprising to see them. And on the city reports, you know, it's really surprising. They have 13 months to get their audit in. North Myrtle Beach is on that delinquent report. So think about, you know, that,
Is that
the impact of thing.
External audit?
It's external audit, yeah, yeah.
I think a part of it is, I think the type of audit that you're proposing that we look into is not the type of audit that we get from this particular.
It's you can do something called other agreed upon services, where you basically say, okay, we don't want to see a financial audit of an audit of the financial statements as a whole. We want to have you focus on a particular activity and say, we want you to do some additional testing in a particular area. So
That would be in
anyway,
addition to what
that
they
would
do.
be in addition to doing the annual financial audit.
Because I
And-
think the reason they said they didn't do anything under 5,000, was that correct?
What's that?
They didn't look at anything under 5,000.
That's what they said.
Right, right, because that's,
If you wanted additional, you would say, pick 25 additional, under 5,000, that would be an
And-
additional contract service.
and maybe they would even look at, you know, some of the, more of the procedural issues. You know, it could be that there could be a number of different other agreed upon procedures. But anyway, it's complicated getting these audits done in
I
time,
do agree.
believe me.
I do agree, sir.
And really, 50,000 is a fair rate, I think, and it's a good
It's
firm.
not the money that I'm looking at so
Yeah.
much. I'm just looking at when we get, you said this company been with us 8 years, right?
Sure, sure.
My question is, if this is now May, I'm not saying, oh, we just jump and change overnight, but I do need to say that maybe we need to consider, I like to say consider looking at another firm just for a proposal, look at what another firm can offer us. I know that in this ain't what we have in this budget, but I can't honestly tell you that's just me personally, because I had too many questions about our audit. I had too many questions about our audit.
If we're looking at trying to, you know, select another firm to do the annual audit, you probably need to start almost a year in advance, and then also determine, hey, who is it that can actually service us? Because that's the other thing. I mean, a lot of they're looking for the larger governmentals, and there's a lot of work out there. Obviously, hey, if Florence County can't get their audit done on time, how much, better, are they gonna be able to do?
I agree, if that's something that we're looking to do as council, that process need to start maybe a year and a half in advance.
But then
So we'll be
a date
prepared.
should be, well, if we're saying a year in advance, I don't want us to be sitting around the table next year and saying we need to start the process. Because if you don't start the process at some time, if we say, well, we should have started last year, I'm not saying this year you have to completely get rid of this audit company. I'm just saying we need to be looking at some other alternatives.
Wes, could you, put together a list of?
Yeah, I'll put together,
For our
put
consideration?
together a list of firms, yeah, be glad to do that.
I hear Ms. Lawson's,
Concern?
concerns, I think, once we get a little further into it, asking this audit firm to give us, a little more information than what we've contracted with them. I think that would kinda, for me, is to show me a little more in-depth from just a clear balance sheet. Give a modified, to go in a little more depth and give us
Detail.
some more information.
Okay.
I think that would be good. And like I said, it may be just, to check back on our, procedural things to make sure we're following this and we're following that. And so, if we're missing something on here, they can help us, at least show us that we need to correct it.
Sure. I don't know, I know you've got kind of a schedule to keep. What other
I'm
questions
gonna go
do
ahead
you have,
and
Ms.
flip over
Lawson?
with personnel, page 3.
Okay, page 3.
You said you're gonna look at the year-end bonuses there, so let's be sure that I don't know whether it's an overall flat cost that we're giving everyone. I know you're asking the council to say, put this in the budget, that's what y'all asking us, right? For 2026,
We actually put that
2027.
we put that in non-departmental. You're talking about
Yeah.
the bonus?
You put it in last year, you asked the council, can we put this in the budget? That's what we did last year.
Right.
Y'all asked the council, can we put that in the budget? This year it's just put in here. But the question I have then is, please follow up with, because I have had a conversation with you, but please follow up with Mr. McLeod concerning this.
Okay, about in terms of the bonuses that were paid
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the council members, yeah.
Because I don't want us not to be in compliance.
Certainly.
So if that is something that, we're out of compliance, in this upcoming year, just remove council from that process.
From that,
and be
yeah.
Strictly for.
Yeah.
And if it is for employees, then how is that? Is everybody get a flat rate or by years? How is that
Well, it's a
determined?
percentage. What?
By years?
Oh, for the bonus, yeah.
Just go ahead and, just to be on the safe side, just remove the 8 council members from that, particular, so we.
I think we'll make that way, we're, either way, we're fine, just take that.
Okay.
And it's not that we're not fussing about money, it's just that, want us to be in compliance.
Or just give them $49, so we'd be up on.
You explain on page 5 what technology needs, all this service
Yep,
about, but
sure.
the equipment that we have, I'll just say even our council equipment, may I address?
Sure.
him? Sir, do our equipment work for all of us? How many devices do we have? Council members, how many is budgeted for council members?
Nothing. That's through your own budget.
Right, in our budget.
Budget any equipment.
Right. How many in our budget, how many of our devices are working properly? Because if we're gonna be paying for devices, are they all working properly?
As far as iPads and phones and that kind of.
We don't have a phone.
Well, I know you don't have that, but you mean as far as those kind of devices. So everyone should have a tablet. Some do, some don't. It just depends on the council person. Like
So
I think what we need to do is make that consistent. Everyone has it or everyone doesn't have it. I don't do those.
Who don't have a tablet? Who don't have a
I don't
tablet?
do those.
Everybody got tablet, everybody got tablets.
That's
I don't know.
Shantae. I don't do the tablets. Okay.
With tablets, sort of,
Because that's for.
but I think everybody got one though.
No,
Everybody got a tablet.
I'm just asking if it is, do they all work properly? Because you know how the sheriff, please don't do that. When the sheriff department pointed out that he was having the devices or equipment that was not even working properly and they were still billed for that, aren't we?
Let me mention that we've got something called Spyglass, and we have a $2,000 a year contract with them, and they monitor all of the the cell phones and the tablets in terms of usage, because part of what we've determined is that there's been services that have been acquired, and then there's a replacement that takes place, and the old service we continue to get billed for, and then the new service we're getting billed for. So, in fact, we just went through that probably 2 weeks ago. I had them cancel all. I think it was about $2,600 worth of services that to date, and I hadn't heard back from anyone. So I'm guessing that those services that were canceled were just not being utilized. So we do have a means in place
Right,
to
and that's what you
protect
just
us.
answered. I just want to be sure that we're not being billed for
things.
equipment that we're not in our budget
And not using.
and not using.
Right.
But so Is it in our budget? Because it came up in when our vice chair and chair and vice chair training. The chairman is supposed to have a phone.
Okay.
And I would go on a limb and ask that, you know, we look to purchase, cell phone for all council members. Because we run a risk
We do.
using our own personal devices and using our, and if there's anything, you know, like I don't need none other phone, I got 3, you know, but my phones have a lot of client information in it.
Yeah, so you don't want to
Using it
be
for
FOIA'd on
personal
something that
business.
may be,
I got some
Right.
not so well people information out.
right.
in the world. And so, you know, if we could look towards, just to keep us in, you know, in bound with
Compliance.
FOIA and stuff, if we could look, just price, see what that look like
Right.
for,
Okay.
all council members to have their own personal cell number that is directed
Okay.
to, county council.
And look at this device. I would like for you to reevaluate this device. See what this device looks like compared to the little digital tablet that you can type in, because you can't do any typing on that. I know you mentioned you can give me a keyboard for that. I saw that noisy keyboard, but I really appreciate it.
Where we're having the problem is we have a difference of departments of who handles your stuff. And because I don't handle any of the stuff
Okay.
for you guys.
All right.
I mean, I would be more than willing to do it, but I mean, it'll come out of your budget just like anybody else. And I have no problem doing that. But as it stands right now, your phones, your tablets, all that is through Verizon. Well, that's all handled through Ms. Weldon. She's the one that takes care of that account. So that's why I don't know
Okay.
what is what and who's what when it comes to that. Because I don't deal with that directly.
Well, sir, can you take care of that?
Yeah, I'll talk with Shante, but I think this, Doris, this might be a part of the discussion on who needs to have that responsibility, and maybe reassess who needs to have that, because I do see, I think that is more along Steve's line to make sure that technology is working the way it needs to.
Right.
So we'll not just talk to Shante, but see about moving that.
That our equipment is working properly, because sometimes maybe our equipment does not work properly, and that's all I'm asking. So
I would've got you something so much better than that.
I just don't think this is not adequate for me. I don't, this not. And not just for me only, but I'm just asking. And I know I'm being petty about that, but Mr. Jackson not here, I guess he's gone, but I know his device wasn't working, hasn't been working
Yeah,
well at all.
those things are about, I don't know, about 10 years old.
Yeah.
Probably, if not older.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's probably time to at least look at it and see what it is, so.
And I know that sounds like a little minute thing, and I need smiling about, but it's serious for me. I want to use my device more
I'm
than just
surprised
to
you got
get
something
email.
that's still working that's 10 years old.
I mean, it's probably close to 10 years old.
Yeah.
So.
I would suggest, council members too, you know, to begin utilizing their bona fide county issue email. So everything dealing with council will be coming from and
Council.
going to that particular email. Cause we do get a lot of stuff from the Association of County that
Yeah.
goes towards the email that's on file that a lot of council members probably don't get because we're not actively using that email that's designated by the county. So if we could, you know,
Probably a good time to reset everything.
reset
Yeah.
everything.
And so I know that seemed like simple stuff, but I just feel like that's something we need to look at.
Sure.
And I don't know how it's gonna change our budget or anything, but just be sure, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to emphasize that, I've had this problem before at other places. We do need to have every council member on marlborocounty.sc.gov, account, and they need to be using that for county business because it can get FOIA from time to time.
Okay.
Not only that, it just keeps it internal, especially county business, and when you talk about, Steve can tell you about people, with security and that kind of stuff. So I will make sure that everyone has that email address, and then we'll make sure you have the cards that reflect that as well.
Well, if it was a piece of equipment with a dedicated email, dedicated number to it, just then you don't have to add any numbers to it. He could put a block on it where you couldn't add any Gmail account, it'd be strictly one account, for one purpose, and that's, you wouldn't work it off of your phone, you'd just work it off either the phone or the device. I think that'd be at least check into it.
Any other questions?
I have some, but I'm gonna excuse myself, Mr. Chair. But honestly, I don't wanna take up all the time because I won't have enough time to get into my question, and I'm sure y'all will cover some things. I don't know whether we'll be having another budget workshop soon this year to determine that, but I have a lot of things I do want to be covered, especially now with the recreation department, y'all be meeting on that. I had that in my questions too. So I do thank you, sir. I'm gonna excuse myself.
Start at the top, Mr. Parks.
Okay, and we'll start at the first page. And the first page is, let's go to page 1. It might be actually a little bit easier to look in your book. You know, county council, we've got a change with, you know, health insurance and professional services. We had an increase in community services. So that's, we had a little increase in dues and subscriptions. Let me mention this. You look at the actual year-to-date in the current year, the issue there with dues and subscriptions is we had 2 payments to the PD cog, and so that's why that number is running so much over at this point. We go to the administrator and clerk to council. There's not a lot of changes there. We had a little reduction in overtime salaries. I think that was mainly associated with we're doing the rodeo. And obviously that reduced, you know, also some of the FICA fringe as well. That is a negative amount. Next page ends up being, let's see, yeah, this is finance. And we've got, the expectation is that we'll hire a finance director, and I'll provide some contract services, and that's the reason why we've got an increase in the retirement fringe and the health insurance fringe. Those are the 2 big ticket items there. Okay. Under personnel, very nominal changes, a little bit of increase in, you know, contract services and some reductions. Other places, net reduction overall. Non-departmental, the big change there is the cost of living increase. That increase is $89,000, and that becomes 2% across the board for a total of $205,000. I think I'm trying to think why that other amount previously budgeted, did we do was it a full 2%? But
Only for people who were,
under, yeah, okay. Then we go to the next page. We've got an increase in general insurance of about $21,000, and then an increase in utility costs based on what we're seeing at this point in time. Overall, it's a pretty significant increase with the total department. That's $128,000. Look at information technology, and I did pass that sheet around that Steve had provided, and so much of this is associated with increased level of security over our information and requirements associated with law enforcement in particular. I guess you actually have an audit this Friday?
Well, yeah, I'm actually still working through it.
Right.
Finalized Friday, but yeah.
Yeah, so,
These are all mandates through the federal government,
obviously the cost of those services are continuing to go up. And so much is subscription-based now. It used to be that you could buy a piece of equipment and then, or a program, and you pay for it once. Now you pay for it to use it as you go, and so I think that's really driven the cost up substantially. We've got county treasurer, let's see. Little changes there. Actually, one of the big changes has to do with health insurance fringe, and it could be, there again, the staffing, this is on page 6. We estimate, did that come out of the?
I missed
Look,
3
miss-
through 12,
Wow,
or 3 through something, I don't know.
okay,
So, I missed
sorry.
3 through 12.
Anyway, it's a pretty significant reduction in health insurance fringe, and I think part of what's happened is we've got some part-time help with the treasurer, and so we base the budget based on existing people, staff in place, and so that makes a big difference. I don't know whether.
One, you're down at least one merit with one full family person, Shannon, since you retired.
Yeah. Okay. Then that's really the big ticket item. You can see we have a reduction in regular salaries, an increase in part-time salaries. Delinquent tax, very little change there. Obviously, this is all based on existing staff. Same with the auditor, there's some small changes there.
The QS software, professional
QS1.
service, this is a yearly recurring?
It is a yearly recurring, that is definitely subscription-based. In fact, we just met with QS, well, they say QS1 is actually Brook, what is Springbrook? Yeah, is the name of the firm, but anyway, they acquired QS1, but we did a meeting with them on Tuesday, was that even Monday? Might have been 2 days ago that we met with them, and we went over what will be the new contract. You can see that's a pretty significant piece of expense there. Just like in the auditor, it's almost $100,000.
Mr. Park, you said you've received information from each department that's already gone into this, but has there been?
Whatever information we received is actually coded in white. If it's yellow, that means the department didn't respond.
Okay.
And so we prepared the estimate based on our understanding of what that department did.
Okay.
So anything in yellow is prepared by finance because we didn't get a response.
So will these departments get a preview?
We can do that. We can send them what we're showing them. But yeah. Okay, when we go to tax assessor, there is a little reduction there. There's it looks like we didn't budget for some part-time help. We had a little more in full-time help. And that, obviously, that had a real impact on fringe. You can see that the health insurance fringe dropped by $20,000. That's one of the huge differences with, you know, with our benefit package, it's based on whatever, whatever coverage that employee elects, and if they elect family coverage, it's about $20,000, so it's a really significant cost. The tax assessor, roughly a $15,000 reduction. GIS, a small change there, only about an increase of about $1,200. Okay, now we go to voters registration, and obviously the change there is in salaries. No, Doris, you want to talk a little bit about that, or?
Well, we do know it's because of election year.
Election year, yeah.
It's a huge election year, so that's gonna be,
Back on the assessor on 05940,
Right.
93.5, what is that?
Oh, the 93.5, that is his, what they call, what is it, camo program? What is the, that special project of 93.5?
Yeah, I mean,
That is a program that's used to calculate valuation, and that's been in this budget for many, many years now, but we've never paid for it yet, but I don't think that,
Is that the new software thing?
that's the new software.
So the question I have is, you know, it's been in the budget, in the budget, in the budget. We done went through going through two reassessments. And it's not done. Why is it still in our budget? I mean,
Well-
because eventually, I mean, if it was that great a software, why we're going through two reassessment, I mean, three, I know it's been in there 3 years.
Yeah, it's
So-
been at least,
So if the question is,
yeah.
if it's that good, or if it was ready to implement, why are we still in our budget and we still don't have it whenever we're doing our reassessment now?
Yeah,
I know that ain't
yeah.
your question, but that's a question for,
no, and
and, because we've asked that last
we
year.
asked him that directly, and he talked about the fact that he liked that system
Yeah.
so much, but
I like an
that's
F4,
something that we.
I like an F450 Platinum, but I don't have it.
Right, but that's something like going forward, you know, we should make a decision.
Yeah, I mean,
Are we
it's-
gonna cut it out, or we keep
Because
it?
from, I don't know, but my understanding is, you know, they were building a system for South Carolina, correct?
Right,
So-
it's a North Carolina vendor, and they've
So-
they don't have any other South
So for
Carolina
me,
business.
is if it takes that long to get it, if we have problems and we can't get it to us in this length of time, if we have a problem with it, who's gonna assist with the corrections of the problem?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think there's a time where, you know,
Cut the losses.
cut the losses and go on. I mean, because we don't
Yeah.
have the service, you know. I think that's something that,
One thing about it, we've never paid for it.
well, I think,
yeah,
but, you know,
You never use it.
well, yeah, I mean, but that's a lot of money whenever, if all of a sudden they can say, oh, here you go, it's time to pay for it, and we can't use it, we don't know nobody how to use it, nobody can help us fix it when there's a problem. So I was just seeing that in there, and I was wondering, I think that, I know that's not for you, but I'd like for us to, address it, yeah.
Yeah,
How about, you know, another session of this, we'll have a little more in-depth question from Kev about that actual service, because, again, it may be a situation where we've committed so much money towards setting it up, but if it's not working in 3 years, then, like you said, if something goes wrong, how long is it gonna take to get that fixed? And it hasn't been working, so.
and I,
It seems like something that we could just go ahead and cut our losses and just say, look, we got what we have with QS1 and that system, and just stay with it. Because it was, I guess it sounded like a great idea when he first brought it, and I wasn't a part of it, I don't know exactly what it was, but it hasn't been working, it hasn't been implemented yet. Probably needs to come out of the budget line.
Who owned QS1? Let me get their number.
right, exactly. You want to buy a
All
piece
over
of
the
that,
place.
right?
Every county in South Carolina.
Yeah. Well,
They ain't got no universal
it-
software?
It grew out of Smith Data. I don't know whether you remember that. And they did pretty much all the tax billing in the state. Then it's been acquired. It's churned many times because it's changed from Red Sail, QS1,
It's something else?
Springbrook, it's
What is it now?
Springbrook.
Oh, Springbrook.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I know one of the things that Kep has said about the software for tax assessor is that the QS1 software doesn't have isn't as robust as this is, but yet it still hasn't been implemented, so that's a,
I mean, that just knocks down on the 200 whenever you get looking at it. I mean, that's half of what reserve was if you're really thinking about it.
yeah. Let's see, we're on GIS, there's been very little change. Voters registration, obviously the difference there has to do with the primaries, election, yep. We've got clerk of court, and you can see that's a really significant difference, but let me mention what's happened there. Clerk of court also covers family court. So we don't have that budgeted in some of the special revenue funds, and we actually had a transfer of $200,000 to family court because there's this whole discussion. You're supposed to spend your general fund first, and then you are able to reimburse the general fund for whatever you didn't spend, from the family court funds. So anyway, that difference on this sheet ends up being, it says it's 217,000. The increase is actually 17,000 because we don't have the $200,000 transfer. Okay. Go to the probate, and you can see there's been fairly limited change within the probate budget. Magistrate, the big change here has to do with as Doris had mentioned earlier, the full-time versus part-time, and then of course some of the requirements of the judges and the magistrates, yeah.
Has anyone been, I know we just appointed a new but have we identified anybody that meets that specific criteria that just come through with our legislatures?
To my knowledge, no.
Which,
Having law degree or law experience that justifies this increase in.
Ms. Weaver the only one.
So,
Ms. Weaver, yeah, but she stepped down from full-time manager to part-time.
So we don't-
Part-time.
So we just putting this in just as a contingency if we do get it, okay?
we're gonna have to get one because the demand in the court cases. And so, it's been kind of heavy, and they've been really kind of talking about they need to have somebody full-time. I just don't know if Weaver's gonna do it. I'm hoping she will go ahead and go full-time because.
Have there been any conversation with her about possibly upticking
Well,
back
I'll
to?
talk to her, but, I mean, I don't know. We just have to, kind of see where it is, but she, is the only one I know of that has that qualification.
Gotcha.
And we've got the same allocation to the solicitor's office. Coroner, we've had some increase in salary that I think we actually came in below what we should have had in the prior year budget, so that's why you're seeing that increase.
We know, we know that the solicitor and the public defender wanted an increase.
Right.
Have you implemented, we not implementing none of that all?
No,
Okay.
we don't have any provision for increase with either, yeah. Supplement is gonna be the same, it's just a matter of, the expenses from the supplement are gonna be strictly salary and benefits. We originally had budgeted the the lease payments for the vehicle under the supplement, and then we determined that that needed to be charged to general fund, or, the regular allocation. Public defender, no change there. Public works, nominal change is actually a slight reduction, almost $10,000. It looks like we've got an increase in contracted services, but I see. We've got a reduction in the vehicle lease payments. Kind of like we'll get into the sheriff's office, you'll see the lease payments drop because some of the vehicles have been fully, are at this point in time fully paid for, that we were making payments on previous. Looking at planning and zoning, that amount is, very nominal change. We've got a little change in animal shelter to cover, looks like we've got a change with the health insurance fringe. And that has to do, I don't know whether or not, looked like we had a part-time, was it a part-time person in prior year, or how did that work? Or did we just have, with the salary amount, was that?
Was, I think, previous person, he had VA insurance. The new person came in and has health insurance.
Okay, that makes sense, all right.
Where are we with the animal shelter and contractual? I know this ain't a part of this, but just for this.
That's where we pay for it.
Yeah,
Out of
we
there.
pay.
Yeah, 114.
The brief version.
I just got a response last week from her from what we talked about months ago. And the only reason I got a response from them is because the city put in their budget about a performance clause. And so now, we're gonna have to look at possibly doing that same thing, performance clause. So that's where we are.
Okay. That's done.
Okay. All right.
I cut it off
We go to,
Is it still blowing? I don't know, somebody might have another one. I mean, you got another one? Let's cut that other one off too, if you don't mind. Yeah.
So, just to go back, next check, the phones are gonna be about, 380 a piece, and that's for whatever type, iPhone or Android, and then monthly cost will be about $37 a month. So that's just,
8 brand new phones and so.
Flip flop.
almost 7 grand.
it's got an email.
Okay, let me go to,
Well, you look like Darren just did. You look just like your brother right there.
We almost there, y'all. We gonna push through another little more.
okay. All right, we're at, actually, public buildings. Let's see.
Wes,
Little increase there, yeah.
just kind of fast forward. Do you feel better about this budget
Oh, so much
process
better.
than the last couple of previous years that we've been?
Absolutely. I mean, and we're fortunate that we've got revenues to be able to, to pay for existing services, because really what happened, the impact of inflation was very detrimental, when you start looking at increases in salaries that took place after COVID, and that continued to go. And we did some things with, like, for example, getting everybody to $15 an hour, that added cost. 5 years ago when the deputies were on Chinese overtime. I think, what is this starting rate for a deputy now?
40,900.
So we've done a lot of things to bring salaries up. Fortunately, we do have, adequate revenues to be able to pay for things. I do feel a whole lot better about where we are.
And can I say something too, we were talking about the, health insurance premiums also. When we go to do our budget, if it's if conversation with the delegation and our, state budget is going on, whether or not they're going to raise the employer's share across the state of the insurance, for the insurance premiums, we can't give you a definitive number. So it may be off that year, but
It's
this year, they're not doing that, so we can be more definitive.
Because usually it's after the budget whenever they approve it, right? I
Yeah,
thought
it
that's
is.
what was. So they're not doing it this year?
No.
Okay.
Well, I think that's another reason why we're in better shape, because South Carolina is in better shape too. So revenues have been up statewide, and they've had some pretty decent surpluses, which is great. We go to Sheriff's Department, you can see there was a provision for position upgrades in the prior budget. That number has settled into the regular salary. So if you look at the 124,783 and reduce 93,000, that difference ends up being, about maybe $31,000. So, and we do, obviously, we know that there's going to be, we expect there will be more overtime. We see a reduction in health insurance fringe. I mean, I guess for whatever reason, it has to do with staffing. It could go back and forth.
And did we ever get to where, I know we were covering some other municipalities, and that probably put it up or down, but did we ever get it, the talks with them about, I know one time in the past, there were about reimbursements for some of it. Did we ever get into contracts or talks with them about doing some reimbursements for, just like
Oh,
overtime?
like you're saying from like
Some other
Clio
municipalities.
and
Yeah.
McCall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ain't got nothing.
I mean, do we engage or get anything? We talk to them about it?
Now, that's something that, now Clio, I know a couple years back, Clio was in some trouble, and then we did do something for them. But here recently, Clio isn't the one, it's just McCall.
Correct.
And we're just, at one point, we did do some coverage there.
Well, we were doing 100% for a long time.
Right.
So the thing was,
They did pay a little bit.
so I know with the fire service, there's kind of a trade-off for this and that. So with the sheriff's department, just for good business practices, so the sheriff's budget, if he's, I mean, I don't even know if he's over or not, but if he went over $30,000 overtime, then if he was not providing that services, he would have been within budget. So I think to make that look right, we should at least have some communication to find out and track to find out if there's a way to make sure it does, it's not so, I don't even know if it's out of whack or not. I mean, I'm doing good to see the book today, so, but I mean, I was just wondering if it's not, I know we talked about it, and the sheriff may even have talked about it, I don't know. But it would be good to know.
And what I want to get from the sheriff is how much did he, as far as overtime, how many hours did he actually commit to McCall?
Well, I mean, they were without a police force for a long time, so there was a lot of
Now,
hours.
now when they got,
Yeah,
English,
yeah.
then.
That was short, then that was short
That
term.
was very
Yeah, no.
short-lived, that was very short-lived.
I'm just looking at the downtime without it, that would have been within this budget year.
Yeah, I'll get that information from him, how many hours, how many minutes he commit to that,
Yeah.
cause it shouldn't be the same amount. I think they do have
Correct.
some things now, so.
But that was not, he didn't prepare for that in the budget,
Oh,
neither
yeah.
did we, and so that's why I was wondering.
And operations and maintenance of vehicles, obviously, that's up. The 200,000, as we stated, we'll take out of this budget. So And you can see our lease payments actually dropped by 50,000. So some of those, some of that existing fleet has been paid off. So anyway, that change is about 95,000. Going into detention center, there again, there were some position upgrades. That number is in the salary, the regular salaries. We do have some increase in food service cost. And we've got a little capital outlay. I don't recall exactly what that $40,000 is for, but anyway, that's in the detention center's budget. But anyway, we can look into that to find out what that amounts for. Overall, $87,000 increase. Next is recreation. They're again working with the existing staff that's already in place and then just doing some other estimates. A small overall increase within recreation. Of course, this does not consider the impact of operating the aquatic center. Museum. About $2,000 increase in utilities and about $1,000 increase in telephone. Those are the two items that,
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I know you're going down line by line, but is there anything really out of whack or kind of everything that's?
I kind of covered that actually on the other
on the very
presentation.
initial, yeah.
Yeah, and
I didn't see anything that's just stuck out.
I'm not really seeing anything either.
I mean,
So I feel,
any of it,
I feel confident about what we've got within this document. I don't see anything that
Mr. Potts, I know,
really stands out.
PDRTA had requested has there been any, overview or
I think
look into?
PDRTA, we've got budgeted at the same level of funding, but we might, I don't know whether or not
So the
it's something we're.
only increase really was the insurance and the 2% cost of living. That's all that was in the budget.
That's really the
And
big
so, and we
one.
have enough revenue from the existing reassessment and the millage we have now to.
We get there. I
to
mean, we're
take-
within 60 grand. I
Within
think if I
60,000
if
from.
I tweak, maybe some of our revenues will be there with the
Only thing
balance.
we don't have is operation of the aquatic center.
But that's going to be under the proprietary fund, so it's not going to impact the general fund.
How about the employees and this and that? If we have to hire.
Well, I guess
Is that gonna be?
that's a
But I
real
guess we
question.
find
How
that part.
how is that going to operate? Just like we pay the employees for the golf course through that proprietary fund.
Okay.
But the question is, I mean, should we contract all of that? Because one of the challenges is, I mean, if that's only open, 4 or 5 months out of the year, it's
We just
it'd be
need to
very
know that
difficult to,
Yeah.
I think to hire for that. I don't know whether or not, I do wonder if we can get a contracted service for that.
Most of the outdoor pools, public pools, they do contract, so that way you don't have to pay
Lifeguards
part-time, year-round, all that kind of stuff, seasonal. They do contract, and that part of that contract is not just for lifeguards, et cetera, but it's also for the cleaning of the pool and the maintenance of the chlorine and all that kind of chemicals.
You said the
All one
company
that does the same thing.
was supposed to send you some suggestions
Right,
about firms, so
right.
make sure, when we schedule our rep meeting, we entertain those.
I'm not sure I want, it would make sense to go through the rest of this presentation. I don't see anything that really stands out at this point, so I don't know if there's any questions. I'd be glad to, discuss those, but,
I'll dig in it some more, but I mean, this time, I mean, we haven't said sharpen the pencil yet, so.
Right,
that's-
right.
I mean, we always say sharpen the pencil, but we hadn't even said that. I mean, it's just, if you're working within the revenue now, we hadn't even sharpened the pencil, I mean,
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's, to me, I mean, and I hadn't dug into depth in it, but.
And I feel good about where our millage is as a county. I feel good about where our fees are as a county. I think there's some other potential increases in revenues. I know, I don't know whether you want to talk about some of the, the permitting potential fees that we may, see, going forward. It's one thing we didn't have in place prior. We had really reduced permitting costs, and so that could be another source of revenue that could help us significantly.
It's looking a lot better than it did
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and fortunately, I think our timing was perfect in terms of the redistribution of the FILO, because I don't think there was a sense, with the school district, they kind of felt like that was more of a state issue at that point in time rather than a local issue. Obviously, when the state came in and took over the financial operations, that wasn't as personal, let's just say.
We know, when you had the initial slides up, that $200,000 that was, allocated to the sheriff department.
Right.
Would be reassessed. Could we kind of keep that number and look at, PDRTA and solicitors? And I know they can't get, probably what they're requesting, but at least a soft look at what they're
Okay.
requesting, so.
So perhaps we can do some more shading, to get it down to the number that would allow for that 200,000 to stay in there, and just reallocate that to maybe PDRT.
Yeah.
And we might not need the whole 200.
We might not need a whole, but
If we just keep shaving, we may get there.
yeah. Well, this is actually a really good, start. I appreciate Mr. Parks for giving this information last week.
Certainly.
For us to have the opportunity to look at it before we came into, the meeting today, so we can already have a bird's eye view. But like I said, I asked you that question, was you happy or excited about this budget in the last year? Because I was,
Yeah.
when I saw, that we wasn't almost crunching
Mm-hmm.
numbers like we've done in the last previous year. But this was a good start. We definitely will have, subsequent budget, workshops, because we know some other council members might have some other questions and, some concerns. But I think, for a first budget workshop and a presentation information, I'm okay with what we have thus far, knowing that there will be more discussion, before we finalize this budget.
What's your sense with next week's meeting? Are you all feeling comfortable enough to have second reading, or do you feel like that has to be delayed, or what's your sense?
It's not, is it a public hearing?
No,
scheduled
it's
for-
not.
It'll be for the third reading, for a public hearing, third reading. Knowing that we still have some more, engagement, I don't mind entertaining for a second reading, knowing that we
Okay.
still have
Still
the
have it
public
in
hearing
time.
and the
Oh,
third reading
absolutely.
and some more discussions in between. So,
Another budget workshops.
Cause I know we pretty much gonna have, a workshop with the department heads to give them their requests, their wish list. And, I'm assuming,
they've done that differently this year. They've sent out requests and they send it back in, so we won't have them
okay.
paraded
Yeah.
like we did in previous years.
That isn't typically proper in a lot of counties, to just have them come in directly. So that normally goes to the finance department, and then we make a decision, and then present it to you.
Yeah, we got it.
And the fact they've had that luxury, it's not really the best for you, and it's not really the best for the county. So we're just gonna do it the way where they have to come in, and they explain to us what they need, and we'll ask. you
Why they need this?
And we'll put it in there, we'll make a recommendation, and then, now if you really see somebody that you wanna talk to, then of course you let us know, and we'll bring them in. So, but outside of that, it just kinda, I don't wanna say got out of hand last year,
Yeah.
but people
Yeah,
kinda take advantage of.
In the years past, I mean, since Mr. Woods and Mr. Blackman there. In years past, I mean, if there was something major, it went to subcommittee
Right.
and kind of met and just kind of get an idea, that way you'd be able to, instead of just a full council, I mean, it would go to like a subcommittee, like a designated committee or public service committee or public safety committee, it'd kind of go to those and then it would kind of look and get in, instead of just trying to, so.
I would suggest one final look at those departments who didn't send any, requests in, just to make sure that they ain't blindsided.
Right.
By when the budget is approved and they realize that.
Well, we can scan and send them a copy of what we included, so, yeah.
We'll take initiative to go back to them and let them know, look, you didn't send anything in, and this is what
we've got.
you got, you better talk now, or forever hold your peace, so.
I will entertain a motion on adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Quick.
Hey, that was motion.